All right. I think we are ready to go. Welcome, Tracy. I'm so glad to have you here. Everybody, this is Tracy. She has a history of being a nurse, right? Do you want to give
Yes.
people a little bit of a background of like who you are and like what you're all about, and then we can kind of like dive into some other things.
Yeah, absolutely. I grew up always fascinated with the human body. So when I went to college for the first time, I figured, what can I study that will teach me all about how the body works and what to do when it gets sick? And so the number one route for me was to become a registered nurse. And I took that route and ended up having babies shortly thereafter, staying home for many, many years, but always kept my foot in the door as far as being interested in, had a pulse on like learned about functional medicine, herbal medicine, because now I had these babies that I would try to heal naturally and deal with things like ear infections or sore throats. And I just tried to have a natural approach along the way. So I
Like
had
how
two.
you start with like the conventional bit, and then it's like when you actually have your own kids, you're like, oh my gosh, like there's
Then it
gotta
became
be like
real.
right. It's like there's gotta be other ways of approaching certain things. Like what is the more
Yes.
natural way of doing things?
Because so being Western trained, you go to your pediatrician when your baby gets sick.
Uh-huh, uh-huh.
But it didn't take very long for me to realize I don't really like this approach and it doesn't really work. And all of these medications aren't really getting to the root cause of another sinus infection, another ear infection, etc. So I lived in a small community in Northern California, and it lent itself well to herbal medicine. And I started learning more about that. And I just started to get a grasp for how the body can heal. And that sort of became a conflict for me because then I had two mindsets going on. But as I continued to raise children, I have five kiddos that I homeschool. My oldest is now 17, so I've been doing this for a really long time. And my youngest is 7. And, I've always been fascinated. It's been a true love of mine to learn about the human body and just the complexities and the mysteries involved therein. So I read a lot, and I had friends who were doctors, friends who were nurses, friends in the
Were you
functional medicine
were
space.
you still operating as a nurse like during this time, or did you completely step away while you were raising your kiddos, or like
Yes, completely
yeah.
stepped away while I was raising my kiddos. And
Mhm.
really, it was one of those things where I, had the baby in my arms and was like, wait, I'm going to give you to somebody else to take care of while I go take care of somebody else's babies. It just didn't really make
I
sense.
know.
And my mama's heart just, broke at the thought of that. So
Mhm.
that became my journey as a stay-at-home mom. But yet, interestingly, I was always that friend that would get the text at midnight of like, what do I do? So and so sick, or we're on day 10 of a fever. And so I kind of became like a medical encyclopedia for a lot of people that I knew. And so I felt like I still wore that hat, but I
Mhm.
just wasn't paid for it. It wasn't an official role. And but this comes full circle in that I ended up having my own health journey after my fifth baby was born. And I got this mysterious illness out of the blue, and my life turned on its head. And I began to, self-diagnose and self-treat and dive into the books and try to really figure out what was going on. And I felt like I flew all over the country and saw the best doctors and really tried to figure out what my own root causes were. And it was that 4-year journey of my own that really gave me compassion for the mom who is raising children. In my view, the best season of life is motherhood. And to be sick and to be in a place where you just can't be present mentally, energetically, physically, emotionally, it is just awful. And, most moms don't feel like they're doing a good job anyway. But to be sick and be taken out of the game, it's like a whole nother layer of the guilt trip that, I experienced myself. And so got a heart for other moms who are in that place. And so that really dove me back into the world of medicine, back into the world of functional medicine. And I myself was doing all kinds of testing and eventually uncovered some of my root causes, which ended up looking like probably a lifetime of toxicities that built up, lots of pregnancies that lowered my immunity, and some nutritional deficiencies in there. And then a move to the South in Tennessee. And it's very hard to avoid mold anywhere you live there. So, you don't see it on your walls, and you
Mm-hmm.
don't realize it's there. It's this background like thing happening that's lowering the immune system and allowing all these opportunistic things to take over. And so it was sort of this conglomerate, this soup of a lot of things happening at once. And anyway, so it was after my last pregnancy that my body kind of hit rock bottom. And I just remember through that journey thinking, oh, if I ever get well, I want to spend the rest of my healthy years helping moms get out of the place that I was in. And so it took me about 4 years. And then once I got to the other side, I looked back and then like really became that resource for all of the people that I knew. And I felt like this was the one time in my life where now like the idea of becoming a practitioner was choosing me. And that it was on my text threads all the time. It was friends I saw at the library. It was people I met for coffee. It was other moms raising their kids. And I thought, I really got to figure out how I can get back into the nursing world. But I thought I could not work in a hospital knowing what I know. And I wasn't interested in going back into conventional medicine. So I learned about like this whole world of being a health practitioner and integrative medicine, that I could actually do that virtually. And that just like blew the tops off of my concept of a life purpose. And so that's kind of how I got involved in this. And it really does feel like it chose me. And I just feel really blessed to help moms, because when they tell me their story, I'm just right in the middle of it. It's like, that was yesterday. I remember that.
Yeah.
And it's just, it's another, most of my clients, they tell me, you understand. And it's like 3 little tiny words, but they mean everything to them. And I really do understand. So, and, it means everything to me too. So sometimes it's just that the beauty of walking with someone through their trials and being a guide. And that's really been a big blessing for me, my life, and my clients, because you know how it is. You go to doctor's appointments and you're just a number, and you just don't feel like you get real personalized care. So I just can't believe that I can do what I can do and change lives in the process. And so it feels amazing.
It is amazing. I mean, it's absolutely amazing. I know when we first met, like you have like this incredibly big heart, and like you are just like, you're all about, as you're speaking, I can just feel your heart and like with your clients and everything. But when we first talked too, was it you were running like a group program, but you like weren't charging anybody anything or
Oh, I know.
like
Because when you start, you're just like going to help anybody with a pulse. And I had known all of these great protocols and all of these great ways to like detoxify your body and all these things. And I was just like, help, who wants to be a part of this group? Yes. And that was good learning for me.
It was fantastic learning, and what a beautiful way to like start like building your confidence and like what you were doing, and that you were actually capable of helping and guiding and like helping people transition through this journey themselves and all of that. But I love that, because you just like jumped in. Like there was a part of you that was like, I know this is my calling. And like there was just a part of you that was just like, I'm just gonna like freaking get started. And I remember being so impressed that you had already like put something like that together, and then it was like amazing. Now let's take this and like take the confidence that you've already created, and this knowing that this is your calling, you've all of those things, and like let's actually create something with this, something that's going to benefit you, that's going to give you more capacity and bandwidth to show up for your family, for your clients, and all of those things. but
Yes, exactly. Yeah,
yeah.
when first started, I just sent an email out to like everybody in my local community and was like, I just got back from this conference. Come over to my house for like tea and cookies, and I'm just gonna vomit on you all this 4 days of information in 2 hours. And I had 35 women in my living room. And then from there, I was like, okay, so we're starting January 1st. And, 15 women were just like, let's do this.
So
And
cool.
so it all kind of worked out that way. And then, I started working one-on-one with clients on the
It's like
side.
an old school Tupperware party.
Yeah.
Like maybe we should make like a Tupperware model.
Yeah.
Like this is the Tupperware model. Like this is my
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And then the one-on-one client set, some came out of that and some heard what I was doing and joined outside of that group thing. And I was like trying to gingerly feel out the situation. And I would suggest, well, maybe we should run one test and we could look at this one aspect. And I felt very nervous about like costing anybody too much money, right? Because I know how expensive it is to be sick and to have everything else in life go on. And sometimes you just have a really hard time prioritizing getting well. And you wonder, like, is this even going to help me anyway? Why spend the money on another test? But I was so glad to find the mentorship because it just kind of all put the pieces together when I realized that I was taking 10, 12, 14 months to get people moved along their journey and get them the answers that they needed. In the end, I had run all of the tests, but it was like one at a time.
uh-huh.
And it just kind of clicked for me, was like, wait a minute. I could actually put people into like a transformational experience over a 6-month period, do everything at once. And I feel great because they are getting great results. We have a really great exchange, a relationship happening. And it's not like, sometimes you make a doctor's appointment and you only accomplish a little bit of what you hope to accomplish. And just overall, you look back and you're like, wow, that was years. And
Yes.
so when I
Because there's
found the
no follow
mentorship,
through, there's no consistency, there's no like common thread or like there's no relationship being built. There's no like there's so many aspects of it that is being missed that it just feels like piecemeal. And I think like that's why it ends up taking so long, even I mean, assuming you even get to the goal that you were wanting to get to, which I think all of us
exactly.
could like agree that that is kind of rare, right? In the
Right.
traditional model or in the regular
Right.
model of yeah. Yep.
Yeah. And the mentorship helped me to see like, no, wait, if you do all these tests at once, you actually can layer the healing in ways that you'll make more progress in a shorter period of time because you are looking at more. And so it's just been a real eye opener to see like, okay, the investment is larger up front, but look at what you're gaining. You're gaining all this time, you're gaining energy, your health back sooner. And can you really put a price tag on that? And
I
so
want to
like
like
rather than running one test at a time, it's like,
quote that.
yeah, it's
Seriously.
like a fast track. And
Yes.
yeah, and so that's been my experience for my clients. It's been my experience as a health practitioner as I'm seeing people turn their lives around. It's like it's really been impactful to do more in a shorter period of time. And yeah, so I think we get to the goal quicker. And so
Like
that was a
so
big
so
draw for me.
so essential, like what you're just saying, because there's so many practitioners that I speak with who had probably similar reservations at the beginning, right? Like, no one's going to pay this amount. I don't want to charge that. No one has that kind of money. They can't afford this. And it's like, that's all our own money projection being like put on someone else, right? And I always tell people I'm talking to, it's like, how rude would that be if like I assumed you couldn't afford something? Like, that's what you're doing to your client or your patient. Like, that would be super rude. I'd be like, please let me decide like where I want to invest my money, and like how resourceful I want to be. But you're so right. It's like, yes, there is a larger investment up front, which nowadays people can fund that out or finance that out over time. But it's like, yes, how much time are you saving? How quickly do you actually get to improve your quality of life? right? Where you actually get to show up more for kids, for your work, for your partner, whatever that might be, for your community. It's like you literally cannot put a price on that.
Yeah, exactly.
Ah, so
Yeah.
good. So how has, I know you've spoken some like how the mentorship has helped you. So helping with the strategy, helping with kind of putting the pieces together for your program itself. Is there anything else that comes to mind?
You know, I'd say 90% of the mentorship for me has been just giving me confidence. And I didn't realize that I needed it as bad as I did until I think I realized I didn't have it. And I saw that difference where you're talking about so much of our own limitations as entrepreneurs and health practitioners is in our own minds, that like you say, like we're our worst enemy, we're in the way. And I would have agreed to that. Like, yeah, I'm sure I am my own limitation. I'm not going to argue about that, but I don't know if I realized how much I was limiting myself.
Mm.
So I think working through the mentorship has helped me like peel back some of those layers of thought processes, my own mindset blocks, just where I had capped possibility for
Mm.
myself. And so that's been really amazing. And then just to kind of see others do it, it's really neat in the mentorship where right when I joined, there was one gal who had like a month left. And we grabbed emails and Instagram handles. And, so we chat on the side because she's, 5 months ahead of me. And then there
So
are
cool.
others who see me like that. And
Yeah.
then, and I'm feeling like, oh my goodness, I'm almost done. I wish I had another 6 months, but I'm almost done. But I'm so much further than the one who's just a month in. And
Yes.
so it's kind of a neat exchange to see, how far people progress in 6 months. So it's really encouraging to see what people have been able to accomplish. And then all of a sudden you're months down the road and your nose has been in the books and you've been going through modules and you're creating. And then once you take a second to look up, you're like, wow, I actually have something here. And so that's really great because sure, it's like, can you create a lot on your own? Yeah, but it's like, do you? No, like sometimes you need a group focus. Sometimes you need to set aside time and purpose to
Mhm.
really get where you want to go. And I think the mentorship kind of gave me that permission or whatever, that like I'm going to work on this until it's done.
Mhm.
So I mean, there's a bazillion benefits, but confidence I think is massive because
Mhm.
of mindset limitations that are so easy to get stuck in. And
Totally. I mean,
yeah,
that's such a huge part of like why practitioners stay stuck or like they don't want to take a leap into the online space or whatever. So much of that is confidence. Like, I don't know enough. Like, social media is super intimidating or like, blah, blah, blah. I can't do that. They're doing that, but I don't have like the years or I don't have the letters or blah, 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 blah. It's like so many different stories that come into our head. And it's like, you have no idea like the impact that you can create in someone's life. And I think like, you're witnessing that on the regular, right? And it's like, oh my gosh, like, and sometimes as a practitioner, you're like, I didn't even realize, like, I didn't really do anything. Like, there wasn't like, that was like super simple, but it was like some crazy massive, like, pivotal point for someone's life where they're like, that changed everything for me, and you're just like, wow, like, how
right,
cool is that?
right, totally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm. So how has it been? I know that you've signed some amazing clients since you've been inside of the program. Do you want to talk about that experience or like talk about the program that you've created or what is life like now?
Yeah. Well, so, I'd say probably like a third of the way into the mentorship, it's like, you know, nose to the grindstone. You got to really figure out what are you producing here. And so that was helpful to spend so much time really nailing down that person we're trying to help. And I thought I had a pretty good idea of it, but the worksheets that you created for us, and all the conversations in the office hours just really help get very specific. And well, on one hand, that's very intimidating, because when you choose somebody you're going to work with, that means you're choosing all these people you're not going to work with.
Mhm.
And when you're kind of on the newer side, or maybe you have this high degree of openness, like I tend to have in my life, you kind of want to help everybody. And, but then you quickly realize, well, your own inefficiency comes into play when you are trying to help everybody. And I had looked at my client roster over the last year and a half and was like, well, there's, a 55-year-old male with kidney stones, and there's, a 22-year-old with candida, and there's like, you can just paint these things all over the map. And so really, when we got to module 5, and it was like, no, there's going to be an ideal client, and you're going to create a program around this. That was super freeing for me, because there was this framework that I could now work within. And so, most people tend to pick some prior version of themselves, because that person really well. And I'm no different. So like I already said, that my passion and purpose really is towards that mom who feels sick, and can be sick for a multitude of reasons. And sometimes she doesn't even know why she's sick. So I didn't necessarily want to say, like, I help moms with Hashimoto's, or I help moms with hormone imbalance, or it's like, the mom that I'm working with, she knows there's something wrong, but I don't need her to know what it is, because we're going to uncover it. We're going to fix it. I'm not worried about that.
Yeah.
So, and then it does mean that I get some variety within this one little construct. So that's the beauty of that for me. But but as I have been working with clients, and as I interviewed many people, I realized that there was 3 main areas that moms that I talk to are struggling. And so I decided to capitalize on those. And this is kind of how I describe them: is 1, they don't feel their best. They just feel sick on, like I said, multitude of reasons. Could be thyroid, could be gut, could be digestive issues, could be hormone related, could be like, they're just run down. They don't sleep well. They've got headaches and brain fog, all that kind of stuff going on. And some of them have been sick for many, many years. And some of them, it's like, oh, since I had that baby, I just haven't been myself again. And so that's one of the 3 big categories. Then the other one is really common to moms. It's like, they just don't look their best. They don't feel good in their own skin. They've lost their confidence. They're walking around with the baby weight, and they're just accepting it as that part of life. It's just like, well, I used to fit into those jeans, but now I wear, yoga pants and baggy sweatshirts and stuff. Well, so, that's okay. But deep down, that mom is like, I don't feel my best, and I don't look my best. And it just keeps us in like a little bit of a defeated state in all of life, and it energetically spills over into everything that we do. And then the last third of this piece to this puzzle, which I think makes this ideal woman feeling our best, is how her love life is going. And it's been really, really amazing to dig deep into moms' lives, and to get really personal into their intimate lives, and find out how they're suffering on that level. And I'm not shocked, because who's talking about this? Like, who's getting it? When you go see your doctor appointment about your thyroid, they're not also talking about, your sex life and how it could be better or anything like that. But yet it's actually a really fundamental piece to this entire phase of life where you're feeling less than your best. And so, whether that's like just an emotional disconnection, or it's, you just feel like just low libido, which could be tied to all kinds of health issues. And it's certainly tied in with that lack of confidence in the body image things that we have, where you just don't feel great about yourself. So, so the really fascinating things is the last couple clients that I've brought into my program, which is called Femme Total. my kids learn Latin at home as homeschoolers. And so it just kind of fit me, was this like this Latin spin on this concept of like the total woman. And to
Mhm.
me, it sounds very sexy and a little bit mysterious. It's got kind of an edge to it. And
Mhm.
so that's my thing, is like, I would love to see women just express their femininity.
Mhm.
And moms who don't feel good, they're not doing that. You
No,
just can't. You're
yeah.
just making it through the day. You're just surviving. And but like, to me, that total woman who is like living her best feminine self, it feels great and looks great, and really, has a great intimate connection with her partner. So all of
Radiating.
those things come together in
Yeah.
Femme Total. And over the course of 6 months, we really address all of those things. And so, we do the functional medicine labs that address, things like the gut health, the hormone health, organic acids, which can look at like, is there fungal overgrowth? What are vitamin deficiencies? How are we detoxing? The pathways are open or closed or whatever, neurotransmitters, and food sensitivities, which I will say, I kind of poo-pooed food sensitivities, thinking I had run many tests
Mhm.
before. And
Same.
I thought, I'm kind of embarrassed to go over these results with you, because you and I both know that's just what you ate today and yesterday and the day before. But the
Mhm.
MRT is so different than a
So good,
classic
right?
food sensitivity, that now I'm actually excited to tell people, let's actually lower your inflammation from a avenue that you probably didn't think is contributing to anything, but we'll be able to show that it is. And
Mhm.
so that's been really great. And then, the functional genomics, because everybody wants to know, like, what kind of
Totally.
vitamins should I take? Can I take? What exercise is good for me? What
Mhm.
so that like just like
Having the
narrows into
opportunity
the
to travel.
personalized.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah. And so, and part of the looking, so that kind of all to me fits under the category of like helping moms feel their best. And then with looking their best, sometimes it's just a little bit of tweaking with blood sugar balancing. And the
Mhm.
MRT helps people know what they can and should eat, what's best for their bodies.
Mhm.
But then sometimes, a lot of people don't realize what their constant snacking does, or what food timing or order does, or
Mhm.
it's actually not super complicated, but with some very simple hacks you can really change your entire life. And
Mhm.
as the body lowers inflammation, uh, even women who've had a stubborn 10 pounds tend to drop it once their health is getting in line. And that's really exciting, because it's like, it doesn't have to be some crazy diet. It does not
Yeah.
have to like be a whole overhaul to
Like
your life. You
do
can
some
still get
crazy exercise
results.
routine. Yeah, totally.
Yeah. And so that's really amazing to see, because I think some women get really nervous about what they have to do to lose weight, because they've tried all the things. They tried
Totally.
all the really crazy things.
Mhm.
And sometimes it's just really just a matter of fixing inflammation in the body with some, eating hacks that is the secret sauce for that. And then, part of the loving your best, I do some intimacy coaching and helping women get comfortable with their bodies. And so much of that is mindset. So much of that for that busy mom is learning how to shut off her to-do list, and learning how to view herself in a like reframe the way she thinks about herself and her body, and experiencing pleasure and surrendering to things. And all of this ends up being like a life transformation over a short period of time. Like we talked about, like, how do you put a price tag on it if you can be a completely different person 6 months from now? And so it's really, really exciting. It makes like, wow, I can't believe I get to do that as a job. It's really, really cool.
The contrast of it, right? Of like being an RN and then it's like in the hospital and then it's like, oh wait, what? I get to work with super amazing people who are fully aligned, get paid well, and I get amazing results with them. Like, hello. It's like a win-win-win-win-win-win-win situation over here.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. And it's really great. Like, we talk about in the mentorship that this was a big one for me, was this idea that money is an exchange of trust.
Mm-hmm.
And I really like deeply meditated on that concept, thinking, okay, what are things that I spend money on? And, how am I handing over trust when I'm handing over dollars? When I swipe a credit card and, giving a exchange of trust. And that's what then people are doing for me. And I don't know, it really sets the foundation for just a good relationship from the get-go when we've got a commitment one to another. And I feel like that really helps separate me as a practitioner from maybe the primary care doctor that my client also has.
Totally.
Because we've got a situation where, well, for example, I'm here in California, I'm staring at the Pacific Ocean right now. It's absolutely beautiful. Woke up and watched the sunrise over the beach, but I've got my
Monday.
phone, and yeah, on a Monday, and I, at 10 a.m. get messages coming through about a question about how to take this one lab, or wasn't quite sure what to do with this one thing, and immediately it's a response, and yet so I just feel like I'm able to be available for my clients in that way.
You have the
So
capacity now.
yes,
That's
and
what
so
it
it's
feels like to
not,
give from overflow, right? Like
yeah.
that's what it feels like.
Yes. And so all of that is there, with with a higher ticket,
Mhm.
there's all that means that there's more trust in me. And then because they've invested in me, want to give them my best too. And so we both kind of win as far as that is concerned. And so, you know, but it's a process for me too, as I'm thinking about, because sometimes you realize even now you still want to help everybody, but maybe it's not the right timing for a client. It's the right program, but not the right timing. And, I'm just also in the process too of just trusting that clients that are in my practice are the right ones for me right now, as I'm likewise learning about how to, nurture the people who are a part of my community. And when the door opens up for them, that, I will be, happy to serve when that comes along. But it's a nice place to be, at this point for me at the tail end of the mentorship, realizing I don't have to like be in that burnout stage trying to, get the next client or rush around for the next person, because how am I going to pay my Zoom bill? Like
Right.
it's I don't know. So I also can't put a price tag on that too, because then that's my peace of mind. That like in order for me to keep my doors open, my laptop open, I have operating expenses or whatever as a health practitioner, even though it's not overhead like a doctor's office per se. But so that's been good for me too, to have, I don't know if it's comfort or what, but just that
Like a
exchange of
security.
trust, the security,
Mhm.
yeah, the trust between both of us, and so uh, it's nice to know I'm not working myself to death for,
Mhm.
a bunch of clients for not much financial benefit in exchange. Um,
Totally.
which is important to me because I am still a mom. I am still raising
Mhm.
kids. And
Mhm.
so when I have a client call, I'm not reading a book to my 7-year-old, or when I've got meetings or I'm doing practitioner stuff, I'm choosing that time wisely at the expense of things that I've got going on at home. And so the mentorship, I think, helped me to put those in proper perspectives and proper places where I'm being reimbursed in a way that just, it makes sense. And I'm
Mhm.
happy to do it. It's the perfect outlet for me. It all works, as opposed to like, I gotta work. I gotta send out more emails. I gotta do
Totally.
more
Yeah.
stuff.
That
I gotta need more
urgency, that
clients.
stress, that pressure, all of that stuff. And it's like going back to you wanting to help, like all of these people are creating like a bigger impact. It's like what you've created now that you get to continue to kind of foster and refine and move forward with for however long you want is like you get to create the capacity to where if you want to create a group program or an online course or whatever to create a bigger impact, it's like now you have the space and time, or maybe after your kids are out of the house or whatever. But like the thing that I always come back to is like you have the choice. And it's like just having the choice, like that is freedom to me. Like that is the freedom of being able to choose, like hands down. Because like when you don't have a choice, that's when you feel like you're stuck in a corner, you're stuck between a rock and a hard place or whatever the term is, you know? And it's like
Yeah.
that's the place that we need to get out of as practitioners so that we can show up for our clients in a much better way and serve from that overflow. And not just our clients, right? For ourselves, for our kids, for our family,
Yeah.
for our community, for all of the things, that ripple effect, it ripples out always.
Yeah.
And so it's
Yeah. It's
just like
interesting because you think
so
about
good.
like, everybody knows that question, like, what would you do if you knew you couldn't fail? And it's like maybe some people have thought about what their answer would be, but very few people actually get to then do it.
Right.
And so I feel like right now, where I'm at in my life and through the mentorships, that's what I've been able to actually create.
Mm.
And so it's kind of surreal in a certain way because it just feels amazing that you're like, you actually get to do what you want to do.
Right.
And then you just feel like shouting it from the rooftops, like, hey, all you people, you don't have to practice like that.
Yeah.
You actually can do what you want to do and it be for your highest good and your client's highest good.
Mhm.
And then, like we've already talked about, then if you're at your best, then you're giving your best.
Mhm.
And if you're giving your best, then and your client has exchanged this amount of trust with you, it's a really nice relationship for growth and renewal. And because how many times you go to the doctor and your doctor tells you to do something and you're like, okay, okay, and then you walk out and you're like, no way I'm doing that. But in my relationships with my clients, when they ask me something, they're gonna do it. Like,
Yep. They're
sometimes
invested.
the trust is so much there. I'm like, if I just told them like paint designs on your face and then, go out at midnight and sing this song, like some of them would actually do it. They're like,
Totally.
yeah.
Totally.
And so it
Yeah.
makes me a better practitioner because of that.
Yes,
It makes
exactly.
me study my labs more. It makes
Yes.
me really want to make sure I'm giving like the best counsel that I can in every situation because I know
Yes.
they're looking at me to transform their life. And
Yes.
instead of it feeling like, oh, this is too much pressure, it feels like it's a neat place of honor to be
It's
able to be in
incredible.
that place.
It's absolutely amazing because if you think on like contrasting the average doctor, right, in like a conventional practice, it's like they don't have the time, space, energy, or interest to like actually do their best. They're just like, I just need to meet this quota or else I'm going to get fired.
Yeah,
Like literally. Oh,
exactly.
and I need to stay within my scope of practice or else I'm going to lose my license.
Right,
And it's
right,
like,
right.
wow.
Yeah,
Wow. Yeah.
yeah.
Woo! So many things. Thank you so much for sharing. Like such an incredible story. And I just honor you for really sticking with the mentorship and following through and doing the work and making it happen because you have seen the fruits of the labor, like for real. And it's so wonderful to just see you flourish. And I just know that it's going to continue to unfold in the most beautiful, magical way. Do you have any like words of wisdom for someone who might be watching and they're like, is the mentorship for me? Should I join this mentorship? Do I need a mentorship? What is mentorship? do,
Oh
do you want,
yeah.
you want to say to that?
I think like in some ways I feel like I'm no different than my client when it comes to the question of like, should I invest in myself? Because really, ultimately, that's what, I'm asking my client to do is to take a chance on themselves and to invest in something that has really likely potential to completely transform their lives. But it's like, there's an element of like fear there, and there's nothing guaranteed. And how will I know this is going to work for me or whatever? And those who say yes, then they reap the rewards and they get the benefits. Well, I realized that I'm no different. Like I have an opportunity as a practitioner, even though I'm not working with somebody to transform my health necessarily anymore. I'm working on a different aspect of my life, which is like the whole business side of me and my personal growth and development as myself as a clinician. So I had to be faced with that same question, like, should I spend that money on myself? Is it really for me? Is it really going to make a big difference? Could I learn this on my own? And sometimes you feel really resourceful, and Instagram's available, and Facebook, and libraries, and Amazon. You could find out where the information age, right? Like you can learn just about anything you want to learn today. And so, but when there's somebody you trust who's saying, look, I've been through all that, and I've distilled the information down to what actually works, and I want you to take this narrow path for the best results. That's what I'm doing for my clients. And that's what gets them the results. And see, for the mentorship, that's what you're doing for me. So yeah, I could read all the business books out there, and I could watch all the free summits that come through, and I could try to reverse engineer people that I think are successful, that I want to be like, and, but it's like when you invest in yourself and you make that exchange of trust with money, then like you say, you collapse time and you get there quicker and more efficiently. So I realized, oh, I am just like my potential clients. And so if I'm asking them to take a leap of faith and to believe in themselves and Femme Total as a program being able to have the capacity to transform their life, then I should be willing to go through those same stages of, fear, doubt, uncertainty, and then the transformation of this is worth it. I'm going to do this. Don't look back, and, take action steps. So in a way, again, like the health journey I can relate to, like the mom aspect I can relate to, like all those different iterations of that season of womanhood, I can also relate to that fear of like, but that's a lot of money, and I don't know if I should do that. And so I have zero regrets, and I feel like it's been the best thing to get my mind wrapped around all these mysteries out there of how to be an online health practitioner. And there's like a lot of ways to skin a cat, but gosh, I could have been reading books for the next 5 years, and I might not ever found the one woman that I want to work with. So I feel like it just streamlined things and kind of like puts a spotlight on the essentials. And I'll always grow and learn, and I'll keep reading books, and I'll keep moving on to my next thing. Yeah, it feels like the beginning, but it also feels like I learned how to not waste time on the things that aren't going to make a big difference. And so yeah, I mean, it feels like that was a no-brainer. I wish I had the confidence back then to have said yes right away. That, now I'm months into it, so, and sometimes you don't realize till you say yes. And so, I'm kind of all about the, YOLO, like you only live once, like take chances and like stop living small, even if it doesn't get you 100% there, you're making, you're like saying yes just by taking a step. And then that's
creating momentum,
and sometimes all you need is that first step. And then you go, okay, I'm so glad I didn't stay where I was, because you look back and go, wow, I would still be where I was. And I think that should scare all of us. Like if we're not learning and growing and optimizing our health every day, but that's also not just physical health, but mental, emotional, sexual and physical health, then like, what are we? We're like dead in the water.
Mm.
So I've kind of become a believer in this, like, find the thing that you're attracted to and that you feel like this could really change my life, and like take a chance on it. What do you have to lose? So
Agree. Thank
yeah,
you. Thank you so much. It's been so great just chatting and catching up. And thank you. Thank you again for just like following through, doing the thing and making it happen. Like your prime example of what is possible and what usually happens inside of the mentorship. So thank you.
awesome. Yeah, thank you.
Enjoy the rest of your time in California, and
I
I will
will.
chat with you soon.
Okay, thanks, Michelle.
Bye.
Okay, bye.